Test it, test it.
Test it, test it.
Good?
Test it. I am testing it.
All right. We straight.
We straight. Okay, let's do it.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
And we're back.
And we're back.
And we're back with the Of Ink and Leather podcast. I'm your host, Vily
And I'm your host, Mark Schlahovsky.
Mark Schley for short.
Mark Schley for short.
Yeah.
We're back and we're better than ever.
Better than ever. Can you
Better
believe
than
it?
ever.
Those of you, our loyal fans.
Our loyal fans.
For 2 whole episodes.
For 1 whole episode.
1.5 episodes.
1.5 episodes.
Yeah.
You're probably wondering, like, oh my gosh, what happened?
What a glow up.
What
you
a
know
glow
those
up.
like those Instagram photos or like those trends that they would have, like
Yeah.
Throwback Thursday or whatever.
TBT, hashtag TBT.
Last episode was Throwback Thursday, but it was present. Now
Yeah.
it's now that really is a Throwback Thursday.
And it's
because
Thursday.
It is.
It is Thursday.
It is
Throwback Thursday.
Throwback Thursday. You can see the drastic change, the drastic difference from episode
From our
one.
first episode.
first episode. You need to be like right here, dude.
I know.
Stay there.
Whew.
As much as you want to rest your back, I know. But
Oh, man. See, if we
still
had a
gotta-
boom arm, we can just, like, go
see
wherever
if we
want.
had a boom arm. So those of you who are looking to sponsor us, we would love to hear from you.
Yeah. Because our budget could afford all this, but it could not afford pop filters.
Our wonderful current sponsor, Job, was able to help us get everything that you see before you.
Yeah.
The background that we built, custom built. There's an episode coming up at some point where we're going to show all the processes that went into building the studio. As you can see, the background, this table, custom.
Yeah. We decided to get down to business. We're like, all right, if we're going to do this, we got to do it right.
Legit podcast.
We got to do it the right way.
The right way.
And
We're
now
no longer jerry rigging.
No more jerry rig.
Kind of.
Oh, kind of.
Some things are still kind of jerry rigged. So
But we're hoping that you guys find it still
in
exciting
your hearts to keep watching,
to keep watching
because
and sponsor us.
it's gonna keep on getting better.
It only goes uphill from here.
So Mark, what did you bring today?
What did I bring
What
today?
did you bring to the table? I
you
like
know
that phrase.
I always got something up my sleeve. Oh, I got
Oh,
that too. But I also have some tea. Because today we're going to be
spilling the tea.
spilling a little bit of tea. Oh, I got some
I never
ASMR.
understood. I never understood that phrase.
Spill some tea?
Eh,
It's actually more for like, oh my gosh, we're running out of tea.
not really.
Well, we're running out of water.
Yeah, we're running out of water. It's okay.
But we have an abundance of tea to spill.
An abundance of tea. What are we talking about today?
What are we talking about today? Well, as you guys can see, we kind of already, at least I did, started setting up these journals here. So, I'm wondering what we're going to be talking about today.
You're supposed to use that phrase.
The phrase.
The phrase.
What phrase?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Ever
yeah,
since
yeah.
our first episode, we
came up with a thing.
We came up with a thing, and I completely forgot about it. Vily, what did you bring to the table today?
I'm glad you asked.
As if I was supposed to remember that.
Yeah, you should have. I brought my backpack to the table, and within it, a bunch of things. Throw out a number.
Between 1
One
and 2.
1 and 2.
2.
Okay. 1.
Oh my gosh. What is that? That is not what we're looking
2.
for. Oh my gosh.
3.
Well, I said 2, so
Oh yeah, you're right.
Stopping
But
at
like,
2, or?
no, you were wrong.
Oh.
You were so off base.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Well, I mean, you kind of kept going.
I kept going, and there we go. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Vily, what is that?
That is a pile of journals. You brought 1 to the table.
I brought 3.
Oh, you brought 3.
So it does at least it exceeds the 2 that I've
It
set.
exceeds the 2 limit.
But you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
7. I mean,
And then
my
your
current
laptop counts as 8, so I guess that's
kind of.
7
It's not
and
a
a half.
notebook. It's a thing. But whatever.
7.
Yeah. So to clue you guys in, we are going to be talking about journaling. As you can see, all of these journals that I brought to the table. Big stack, yeah.
Does this count as a journal?
No. Kind of. It's a funny one.
Today we're going to be reading.
Today we're going to be reading
about
from
Vily's
my journal. From my 3rd grade adventures.
Hey, wow, your handwriting was very neat.
Oh, thanks, dude. Yeah, so today we wanted to discuss journaling and diving into the topic of how the podcast got its name of Ink and Leather. I'm not sure if maybe you did like some thinking exercises or not, putting things together like of ink and leather. What does it mean?
It's philosophical.
It's so philosophical.
It's so deep.
Did you get it?
I got it. I knew you prior to whenever you brought up the name initially. Because I remember Vily came up to me like a year ago. He's like, oh, man, think about doing this podcast of Ink and Leather. And I knew that he was really into journaling. So I really just kind of clicked the 2 and 2 together.
Yeah, 2 and 2, 1 and 1.
Yeah. But regardless, the name of Ink and Leather stems from
the habit that I've built up over time, the process, I guess you could say, or the ritual, even as others would put it, of journaling. And as you can see, the majority of my journals have actually been leather. Like one, well, and not including the one from 3rd grade where we did like a 3rd grade project.
But yeah, they're
like
leather bound.
Literally leather bound journals and stuff. And I typically write with pen. I stopped writing with pencil way back in like high school, actually. It seems like I started carrying a pen around. And
I feel like if you're writing a journal with a pencil, you're just not doing it right.
That's weird. Yeah, it just
doesn't seem right.
It doesn't stand the test of time.
So that's why we've named it Of Ink
and Leather. Because this podcast is of ink and leather.
Very classy.
What you would put into your journal, the discussions on the subjects of life that you would
throw into a journal.
That you would
It could essentially be anything. It could be, philosophical questions or ideas, music, passions, quotes.
Let's go
we're going way back.
We're going way back to 2006, my friends. I'm going to read you a story.
I guess
this doesn't have pictures because otherwise I would go like... But as you could see, like this cool lightning bolt and meteor and stars and stuff. Yeah, that was
Man,
super
you're
dope.
Just so full of ideas.
I was so full of ideas. But
that's awesome.
I'll read you an excerpt. December 21st, 2006.
What was going in your mind December 21st?
Today, I am thinking about Christmas because I will go to my grandma's house and we will eat food and open presents. And then we will go to my cousin to open presents. Plus, I am in a play and I have a solo. I memorized my parts already and I am good. And the whole next week, I will come over his house.
Your cousin?
Yeah, my cousin's house. Because, being, what?
You really didn't, okay.
7 years old, 8, I don't know. Like 10
I'm
years old, probably. I was like,
I'm actually very impressed.
I'm writing in cursive here, too.
You are
crazy,
writing in cursive. And it's actually very... No way, 2007.
Yeah, 2006,
I'm very
2007.
impressed.
Yeah, it was a thing. And it's funny because, this kind of like started, I guess, a thing of journaling, a lifetime of journaling.
What made you want to do this cover? I could see behind it. It's a composition book. It's not exactly leather bound. But, what made you do, the heartfelt cover here?
My teacher.
Oh, okay.
This was a school, I don't even know, like a writing class or whatever, writing exercises and things, and she would grade our things. And, there's a little picture, a little memento, because, the next thing that I wrote about was my mom going to Ukraine at that point when I was in 3rd grade. And she brought that little sticker or something back from Ukraine for me. But, yeah, it was like a whole assignment, and we got these composition notebooks, and then we had to cover them with felt and decorate them in whatever way that we thought would be cool.
That's interesting.
I obviously thought lightning bolts were super cool, so I did that.
Yeah, I also have a bunch of just journals from my previous years, like elementary school, and then you look back on it like a year or two after, you're just like, oh man, it's so cringe.
So cringe, dude.
So cringe.
Oh man.
So the majority of my old journals have been tossed out. because of my insecurity.
So this is
Through
like,
elementary
if
school.
we were to count that one, then it counts like this next one comes next in line, and
this is what,
it's
already middle school or?
2012. So like we're getting there. This is like end of middle school, the beginning of high school, maybe middle of high school, getting there. So what's interesting is, like, I was looking back after a certain point in time, like maybe 1 or 2 journals back, and I was like, when did this whole thing start? When did I really start journaling? And I was like, why did I start writing? Why did I start journaling? I started asking the question, because what's the point?
What is the point?
What is the point? And like the first one I showed you, I mean, obviously it was a thing at school, like an assignment that we had to do where we were journaling in class type of deal.
Yeah, I feel like we've all been there.
Yeah, like,
we've all been
you have
there.
this assignment. Oh, I hate writing. What am I going to write about? And then the next one, I think it also, like, I got to thinking about it. It also started out with another teacher of mine that like pushed us to get into the habit of journaling, get into the habit of writing down daily things.
So it was your teacher that kind of pushed you to
Yeah, kind
this.
of pushed me to do that.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was like
Did you find it enjoyable, or was it like a homework assignment that you had to do?
I think it was kind of both.
Oh.
It was kind of both, and then it kind of took off into its own thing, because I'm still journaling today, and I'm not turning it in for homework.
Yeah.
So it kind of transformed its purpose, I guess, but it kind of stuck. Which, interestingly enough, like when this high school teacher assigned it to me, it was 11th grade. We had to start journaling throughout the summer, like a summer reading assignment and then like a journaling thing. And like had to keep some sort of journal. I was like, ugh, this is so annoying.
But here you are, 6 journals later.
6 journals later. I think I wrote more. My handwriting in 3rd grade was better than my handwriting in high school.
Yeah, I was actually I was literally just thinking the same exact thing. And what I've noticed is you definitely ripped out the first couple pages.
Yeah, remember
So
the
you
thing you
definitely-
talking about, like having some cringy moments where you're like, I'm so in love.
I'm so in love with my oh man
feelings and no,
Emily
don't
was
get-
amazing.
don't get me wrong, like writing about your feelings and things like that and
course.
crushes and whatever is awesome, but like
course.
some things you look back and you're like,
And you rip some pages out. No, for sure. Actually, literally like my last 2 pages are also like ripped out here. A couple pages are ripped out here, and it's just like, yeah, it's great to look back upon, but like a lot of times you're just like, man, what was I thinking writing that?
yeah.
It's really good to reflect upon.
I think my writing in 3rd grade was better too. Yesterday, this was August 28th, 2012. Yesterday was the first day of school, and I already got slammed with a lot of schoolwork. I didn't even have work yesterday, and I was busy up till 12:30 a.m.
12:30 a.m. You didn't even have work yesterday.
Yeah,
Which is crazy. 12:30.
that's the end of the
That's
journal.
it.
That's it.
That's it.
And
And
then-
that wraps up the podcast.
And then that wraps it up. 2 days later. Well, I'm terrible at keeping a journal, that's for sure. Usually I write half thoughts thinking I'll come back to write more, but I really never do. We'll see how far I can get in this journal. Later this week I'm going to Spartanburg with the youth. It sucks that I won't be able to pick up my paycheck because I'll be gone. Oh well, school is okay. Same with work. At least I'm not procrastinating too much. I hope I win the chocolate selling contest. Good night.
the chocolate selling contest. I love that.
Yeah, the
I
chocolate selling
hope
contest.
I win the chocolate selling contest.
Yeah, we were doing fundraising for the church, and they were like, "Hey, there's this grand prize if you sell chocolate bars." Like,
Did you win?
I'm not sure. I don't think I did. I think my
Should've
cousin
journaled.
won an iPad.
See, if you journaled it down,
I
you would have known.
I guess.
Yeah.
No, I remember my cousin winning an iPad.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
An iPad.
But
Sheesh.
I made money.
You made lots of money.
I made lots of money.
Lots of money.
The high school kids remember me as the chocolate bar kid. Not even the high school kids, because like this was a thing that started in elementary school. Like I'd be fundraising for church sometimes, but most of the time it was just me selling
it's like
chocolate for profit.
It's like an annual thing.
Yeah, no, I'd like not an annual. It was like a daily thing. I'd sell 2 boxes a day.
Oh my gosh!
I'm
No
t-
way.
$180 profit I was turning.
No, you did not.
My Spanish grade suffered because of it.
Your Spanish grade.
My Spanish grade suffered. Here's
Man.
the story of
Just a hardworking kid.
yeah, I was selling chocolate bars, and instead of doing homework at home, because
Staying up to 12:30.
I hate doing homework at home. procrastinating and so forth, I thought homework is to be done at school, like in the spare moments that you have and like between classes and whatever. Lunchtime was a great time to sell chocolate bars. Instead of taking that time to finish my Spanish homework for the next period, I sold chocolate because money, Spanish grades, priorities. But
Priorities.
yeah, and that's the story of how I almost failed Spanish.
Wow.
Yeah.
And all of this, why?
All of this, why?
Why?
Yeah. The question brings us to the question of talking about journaling and going deep into it. Why not? Let's go.
Let's do it.
Why journal? The question is, what is the purpose of journaling and why do we journal?
100%.
Why do you journal?
Why do I journal?
Yeah, let's make it personal. Why do you journal?
Why do I journal? Well, every once in a while, you're just caught up in life. You have all this like hustle and bustle. And very frequently, you're just like so caught up, you need something to write down, And so for me, journaling has eventually just become this like dump, like this mind. I think you mentioned it before, like this mind dump onto paper. Even just like in the hardest moments of my life, I guess, just like staying up super late, you're just like, man, I need to write some of these thoughts down. Because after some time, you just become into this like thought loop over and over and over again. But journaling allows you to kind of write your thoughts and emotions down right there on paper.
Get it all down on paper.
100%.
Yeah. Has the reason for journaling, like has it changed over the years? Or like how you journal?
Yeah, I guess you can say my method of journaling, and just like with everything, like your word style becomes different, your tone becomes different, I guess, with everything. But I think at the end of the day, the root of my reasoning for journaling is always kind of the same. It's eventually just like a mind dump of just different ideas, different quotes. I wouldn't even say that it's like all over the place, but here you'll find like just like me talking, kind of just mind dumping things of what I did throughout the day, sermon notes, some different quotations. Like even here, like, I basically started out with a quote from Will Smith, just like a whole bunch of things that I'm going through at a particular time. Just, yeah. So I wouldn't say that my ultimate purpose for journaling has really changed. If you look down at it at like its root level, I guess. I don't know. That's for me. What about you?
I mean, like I was saying, starting out, it all kind of started like as a school thing, in a way, as a school assignment of sorts, where, you're kind of like forced to write about these things, about like your life or your daily activities and things like that. But as I mentioned, I'm still writing today. I'm still journaling today. And over time, like it changed from something that I'm forced to do to something that I kind of like make a ritual for myself, make a,
Would you say that it's a ritual though?
I would say so.
How would you say that it's a ritual? I mean, I would obviously assume that it's like eventually just become a part of who you are, a part of your identity.
In a way, yeah. I would say so because, I mean, you take a look at like what is a ritual? I
would just like
something
an orderly set of, I guess, rules or just things that you do. Yeah. I don't want to say rules, but it just becomes like a part of order for you, I guess.
Like a set of steps that you take or whatever. Or
yeah.
A set.
But wouldn't you agree that, I mean,
if
we pull up a ritual definition, I don't know. For me, it seems like it's almost like a required thing to do. You know what I mean?
Required?
Yeah. I don't know. Like say I do a set of rituals, I don't know.
Well, okay. What's the difference between like a ritual and like a habit?
I mean, I guess they do kind of.
If you take a look, like, okay, would you call brushing your teeth a ritual?
Yeah, I guess they definitely do tie.
Or would you say it's more so like a habit? Or do you have a ritual of brushing your teeth?
It becomes a ritual.
It's kind of weird. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's like a weird thing. But I would say that journaling is kind of like more ritualistic in a sense than some of these more mundane things. Though you can make a ritual of anything. Mm-hmm. But I would say for me, like it's a ritual of writing things down, reflection, of meditation of sorts, of
100%.
writing down goals, thoughts, ideas, dreams. When I'm having my daily devotional, you're writing scriptures down, you're writing things that you learn, thoughts that come throughout the day. If you get into like the habit, get into this practice of writing things down, I would definitely say it becomes a ritual.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
a ritual.
I could agree on that.
Yeah.
I could agree on that.
And that's kind of like what it is for me. Just getting it to that point, looking back as we read, some of these things, and I'm sure that you yourself have experienced, like you have these childish, I guess you could say, journal entries, adolescent journal entries, or things that you're like,
Oh, for sure.
yeah, and they're like, Psh, okay, cool, he wrote that he had spaghetti for lunch or something like that, and I'm sure you had the same thing, or you're writing about your crush in your journal, like, I love Susie.
Hey, but nonetheless,
I love Bobby.
although it's adolescent, it's still something that you're going through at the present
It is
time.
still something that you're going through at the present time, and it's still something that you find important during that time.
And it allows you to kind of look ahead. Whenever you get ahead, that you kind of look back.
You look
and then
back and you're like,
reflect.
okay, yeah, these are things that I was going through. These are emotions that I was feeling. This is stuff that was possibly bugging me,
Yeah.
Would you say that like you wrote or would find yourself journaling more when you're feeling more negative emotions?
See, here's the thing. And I don't know how you do it. I don't know, like, do you write everything down in one particular journal? Just all of your thoughts, all of your ideas in one journal?
For me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know we discussed this earlier.
Yeah. But essentially for me, like, I have one journal, I guess, say adolescent, whatever you want to call it. But I have one journal that I, write down any feeling, negative, positive, just like whatever's on my mind.
Well, I'm not even saying that like that is adolescent, but like I'm saying during your period of adolescence, like when you're 12 years old or 10 years old, because like looking back, you're like,
No, of course. No, but I mean, your question is, do you write more in a negative sense, or whenever you're experiencing negative emotions? I'm saying that I have two journals. One for just like whenever my day-to-day I take with me to work, take with me to church, take with me to hang out with friends. And then I have one at home that I just have more personal things that I would, has gotten me through some difficult times. And I would say it's probably in a more, I wouldn't say negative, but just periods of, I guess, negative. Periods of difficulty.
yeah, periods of difficulty.
So, I mean, this is that journal. I mean, but I just have a journal whenever I just have any kind of emotion.
For me, it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
For me, it's always been the one and the same journal. Like
Yeah.
that. At some point, I thought about like doing a split, like where I would have. I mean, when you're in church, having a journal for like writing down sermons and taking notes and things like that, like a notebook, and then having like a second thing where you're journaling about life and feelings and emotions and everything else.
It's two different tones. I mean, and it's not negative and it's not really bad.
That's the way you do it.
Yeah.
I personally like have just at some point like decided to just go and dump everything into the same thing. So like the journal that I have at one point is going to be the journal that I put everything into, and which also kind of makes sense why I fill them up so fast too. It's like
Yeah, you do. He definitely does. You fill them up like crazy.
yeah.
I think, what was it? Was this the one from last year? Which one was last year's?
Okay, let's
yeah,
go.
You filled them up like crazy.
I'm pretty
fast.
sure you were here you saw me still writing in this one.
I remember that one. Yeah.
The last entry that I have here is dated September 22nd, 2019. And this one I started back in April 2nd, 2018. So almost 2 years, like a year and a half, give or take, this one.
Yeah.
The next one that I got was this one. After that, picking up from like that point in time, September 23rd, 2019, I finished this one.
You finished. I remember you starting
Dude,
that one. You killed that one.
I absolutely
You absolutely destroyed
this one.
Jinx. Oh.
I win. You owe me soda.
Shoot.
This last one was February 23rd of this year. So like literally within like 2-3 months. And what's funny is the next thing I know, like I get 2 journals as a present, and you're faced with a dilemma because like I get this one from one important person, I get this one from another important person. You're like, shoot, which one do I write in next?
I hope they don't see. Well, whenever you're in front of the other person, just write in that particular
switch, yeah.
Switcheroo.
Yeah, so like I filled this one up next, and then now I've started in this one. Anyway.
Impressive.
Yeah, but it's a mind dump of literally everything. And I would say, going back, like taking a look, there's definitely been a change in tone, a change in like the style, a change in a lot of things. Like you were saying, you have the journal where you're dumping a lot of negative emotions or things that you're feeling. And it seems like over time, I've actually, believe it or not, kind of slowed down in journaling. It seems like I'm filling these up fast, but I've really kind of slowed down on the journaling more so.
Would you say that you started slowing down this particular year? Because you filled up an entire book this year. Or was it like within the past like couple months, would you say?
Past couple months.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about it, like why? Why did I really stop? Like what's kind of putting a halt to it in a way?
Maybe you just weren't going through too much at the time.
But if you think about like if you look back at all these other things, during those moments where you write in those other journals, you look back and you could say the same thing about those times. Like, are the things that I'm going through nowadays less important than those moments that I was going through?
Well, I mean, at that point, it's not even so much if it's less important, because during that time, you think it's huge, if Emily looks at you funny whenever you're in 3rd grade, of course, it's going to make you think that it's drastic. So I wouldn't even say that it's like less or more important. But for me, at least, whenever I'm going through something, or not even going through something, but whenever I'm just so much more busy, I feel like I tend to be journaling more often.
You tend to be journaling more often. I recently read a interesting article from The Art of Manliness, a favorite of ours. And he actually, like a month ago, released an article, and we'll link it in the show notes or whatever at some point. He wrote, "Why I Stopped Journaling." I was like, timely, interesting. Yeah. I read it, and like a lot of the things he was saying kind of applied to me as well. And I wanted to, discuss this today. So he was talking about like how his first journal he got when he was about 10 years old. Like similar situation to mine, maybe similar situation to you, or a similar story for a lot of other people. And there's short descriptions about your day at that point in time, but like they transition into something else. Like as we're talking about, you get to these moments in your time. I think this one may be the one, like for me, the one with the tree. This may be my most like intimate in a way. Like I have a lot of things like drawings and so forth, but like a lot of things going on at that point in time. And I want to say like, I want to say like 18, 19, 20.
Would you say that it was your biggest period of growth in your life?
Maybe like it's because of the period of time that like,
especially coming out of high school.
Out of high school. You think of like the period of time that you're going through. What he discusses within this article, he's talking about how like as he's going through journaling in high school, the entries get deeper and more existential, in that adolescent sort of way, where you're vomiting words, but it sounds deep.
Yeah, I could attest to that.
Pensez-vous que le verre sera rude?
Excusez-moi, s'il vous plaît.
Yeah, high school crushes and whatever else. But like, then journaling in college takes on a more significance in his life. Like all young people at that age, like you're starting to think of a lot of life-changing decisions at this point in time.
100%.
What should I major in? Should I go to law school? Like, should I ask this person to marry me? Like, I'm dating this person. I'm like looking at like...
No, yeah, you become overwhelmed.
You become overwhelmed in a way. And journaling kind of becomes this sounding board in a way. Where you like sort out pros and cons and emotions that come with like making big decisions. So digging into like this, journaling in a way is a way to make big decisions. Journaling in a way is a way to, weigh. Saying weigh a lot here.
Way.
No way.
No, I can agree on that.
But like at this point in time, prior to that, where you are still raising your hand to like, can I go to the bathroom? And then you get to the point where you're like, okay, I'm supposed to be a responsible adult, like you 18 years old, 19 years old, you're making these bigger decisions and things and going through choices that like you have to make choices that will affect the rest of your lifetime.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, like who's going to listen to you? These things you don't want to like share with parents necessarily. Like, I mean, those of us who are lucky, are fortunate to have good parents.
Yeah, have close parents, something that
or
we
close
can be
friends.
Close with, yeah.
But some things like you can't really share with, like that close friend. Maybe they won't understand.
And it's not even that they're like not close to you or anything. You just rather not share.
Not something that you would discuss with them. This is something deeper, something different.
Mm-hmm.
So in a way, this kind of becomes like this, a friend of sorts that you pour your heart and soul into. I can attest, going through college, like I was doing the same thing. I was going through a lot of different things within church. I was changing ministries. I was becoming a youth leader, all these other things. Get to the point in time, thinking about who I'm going to start dating. I'm married now. And like, I'm still looking back at those moments in time, like, oh man, does she like me? Does she not? Or like this or that, or heartbreaks, that you're writing about, or betrayals, like, in case you get ever ever get involved in a love triangle of sorts, you like her, she doesn't like you, she likes somebody else or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
But all these big things you're writing about, and in a way, you kind of solve your problems. You can see your solutions come about in a clearer way than when you're just allowing them to
Absolutely.
ferment in your mind, ferment in your heart.
Absolutely. No, journaling is especially important. It's not even just so much, well, yeah, journaling, because, within your head, you just have like all these different thoughts. But it just becomes a different kind of thinking whenever you place it down on paper. Because, you can have this thought, this recurring thought, start a podcast. Like even just like within this, you just have this recurring thought. Okay, start a podcast. I need to start a podcast. Start a podcast. And it just keeps going into this loop. You're not actually doing anything. If you write it down on paper and you wrote down start a podcast.
Okay, what next? Yeah, but you're not going to write the next.
Yeah, you're not going to just write start a podcast
again.
Like, shoot.
I already did say that.
And so then journaling
next.
And then writing things down allows you to kind of take the next step, Take the next step and you see, okay, start a podcast. What do I have to do then? Then it allows you to write things down, write things out, write subtopics. And then it really allows you to just refine a sort of direction in your life.
Do you have more water?
Today's
episode brought to you by
Lipton in very little water.
And
but yeah,
please do not be ashamed. We don't really drink Lipton, but like we already drank the good tea.
Yeah, there's
prior
really
to,
not much hot water left.
We drank the good stuff prior to the start of the episode.
I still got some. Oh, do you want some of mine?
Yeah, we good.
Whatever.
This will do. Next time we'll bring an espresso machine.
But yeah, refinement. What was I saying? Writing things down allows you to just have this refinement in your life. Because there's just something subconscious about writing something down. Once again, going back to the whole thought loop. You're just going thought loop. Write it down on paper. Boom. Now you already have something set in stone.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Would you say that you write a lot of like ideas down in your journal, goals?
Yeah, even right here, like, this is like from like whenever I was kind of starting out too. What do you want to make out of your life? What do you need to get there? Increase productivity, goal setting, consistency. I do definitely do a lot of goal setting. Even just kind of seeing once I write something down, even just how I'm spending my time, time management too. Because obviously sitting down, playing video games as a kid, or whatever, you really get to see how much time you spend at a particular thing too. So yeah, even right here, I actually recall this moment in my life. I just flipped to this. I completely forgot about this. But I remember there was a point in time where I was deciding if I wanted to take a gap year or not. A gap year from college. And so I was already still in school. And I think this is like the fall semester or spring semester. Regardless, I was wondering if I should drop out and take a break, or if I should stick with it. I ended up dropping out for a whole year. So yeah, even here I wrote down a whole pros and cons list of things I can do. So dropping out allows me to refocus, reform good habits, less stress, make some money, or not dropping out and getting back on track. So I wrote this whole pros and cons list, and it's actually crazy. Even just doing something like that, it sets you up for something much larger than you would think. If I hadn't taken that gap year, who knows where my life would be? And I'm really happy I did. So, it was just even getting through that, finding an agenda, writing stuff down, and getting started, Yeah, just, dude, it's awesome going through some of this old stuff. Yeah, man.
Did we answer the question of
what was
why I stopped journaling, or like why I think I slowed down? Okay, going back to this thought.
Yeah.
So finishing this up. You get to this point in time where you're no longer, your brain develops a little bit more. You're like finishing school up. You've already moved past those big decisions, or you've already made them, and you're living out the consequences of those decisions, of whether you've moved, whether you've graduated and started a job, moved to a different city, married the person that you were thinking about marrying, whatever. And you get to this point where like the decisions that you are making nowadays are no longer as big to you in the grand scheme of things. If you think about it, like at this point in time, the things that were big to you a year ago, are they as big to you now?
Obviously not. No, we continue growing. We continue moving on.
We continue growing and moving on, and like we have these experiences. We no longer have to look back, to see how we dealt with the big decisions that we had to make, or the big emotions that we were feeling at the time. We no longer have to look back into the journal in order to see what the outcome was. But like we have these lived experiences that we can rely on to move forward and make the other decisions that we're making in our day-to-day life, or these decisions just don't seem so big anymore. They're like, not saying like having a baby or whatever is a small thing.
It's not.
Or, buying a house is a small thing. But like after you've done a couple of these big life things, it's kind of like, okay, well, I've done it.
Would you claim that because you're not really going through as much of these big time decisions that you've been journaling less? Do you think that's the root cause of it?
I think that, in a way. Wow.
What happened?
Wow, that's it.
What?
The camera died.
Really?
Which is why we need more sponsors.
Yes.
So if you could sponsor us, so we could get better cameras or camera batteries. Still going.
Big time decisions.
I'm no longer making these big time decisions as much. Or, what was your question?
Would you claim that because
why?
Would you claim that because you're not making these big time decisions anymore that you've been journaling less?
I would say that has a part of it. Like I agree with him to an extent. You're no longer making these big decisions. He writes this other one. You get better at managing your emotions. You don't need a sounding board anymore to like tell you how you're feeling or to weigh things out. Like, why am I feeling this way? What is going on? What is this? Like, you already kind of sort yourself out in a way. You've become more emotionally mature. You know how to sort your emotions out.
You adapt to the stress.
So it's no longer a big thing to you anymore that you have to write about.
Yeah.
And the third thing that he talks about, I have friends now, is what he writes. I have friends, so...
You have friends?
Well, I had friends always, but like, and your friends, you have...
Wow. Now you have friends.
I have friends.
You have a friend. That's me.
You've got a friend in me.
You've got a friend in me.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah. Interesting.
But
So,
like, if you have friends that you relate to more, you could... I think I agree with that to an extent too. Like where you have friends that you can relate to on a different level.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it also plays a part that as you mature, you're not as embarrassed to talk about about different subjects and things with your friends.
True.
You're like,
that's actually definitely true. You definitely become less insecure about your certain emotions. Yeah,
things come up and you're like, hey, let's deal with this like a mature adult or whatever. Or,
sure.
The things that would cause you to blush like at 16 or 18 or giggle are no longer, you could have a valid discussion about that like at this point in time, in your 20s, 30s, whatever going on. You have life experience at this point in time.
True.
And so you no longer need to confide in your one and only friend, the journal, because you have other friends that maybe are going through the same thing, or they're coming to you now and you have that experience and you could share about this kind of stuff,
Yeah, I could see that.
But
I could see that.
To an extent.
I
agree.
I agree. Yeah.
That was why I kind of stopped journaling. Like those are valid. Those, I do see it. I understand it. And at the same time, I think that, that shouldn't be the case either.
It shouldn't. It really shouldn't.
It shouldn't be the case. I mean,
because at the end of the day, we're all kind of coping with stress. If we are going through stress, we're all coping to something in a way. You know what I mean? Like we have music, we have sports, we have different things. I feel like journaling is a part of that.
Journaling is a part of that, but I would say that it's not so much that like
it doesn't become much of a coping with stress factor. Is that what you're trying to say?
I'm trying to say that the way you journal, it changes, or the purpose, like the overall purpose of journaling, it changes. Mm-hmm. See, if I were to say, going back from this journal, like 4 journals ago, mm-hmm. that would be the one where, like I'm coping with these big life decisions, I'm juggling, I'm thinking about all these things. And nowadays it's more so, I'm generating ideas and thoughts more so than trying to think about my emotions. And like I'm trying to write down the things, like the big life events and things like that going on, because it's good to keep track of those things. It's good to, otherwise how are you going to recall it later on in life? Like, what did I do when I was in my 20s? What I started a podcast. I moved. I got a new job in a big city.
Big things.
But for me personally, I would say it's changed where,
That's actually interesting that you kind of bring that up.
Yeah.
Well, the whole thing, like with you moving and everything, because if you think about it, you filled up that book really fast, mm-hmm. especially during the time that you moved here. You were getting comfortable with your job. Like you were going through a lot. You're getting used to Pittsburgh, and that's why you kind of filled it up so fast.
Dude, you gave away our location.
Oh my gosh, shoot. Oh man.
Well, I think they all knew.
Well, now you know.
Ah, dang. We live in Pittsburgh.
We live in Pittsburgh. Now they know where we live.
But yeah, and nowadays it's more so, I would say that the big one for me nowadays, when I'm journaling, most of my stuff is now thoughts around like devotion, around me reading the Bible.
True.
And when I'm spending time, that's another thing I've noticed. If I'm not writing or taking notes like while I'm reading scripture, I'm not gaining as much. Like I look back and I'm like, what did I read?
Exactly.
What did I read 3 days ago? Like what chapters did I read? And it's like you look back and you're like, well, Numbers or this or that or like.
But it's much different whenever you actually write it down.
But when you write it down, you're like, oh yeah, I remember that, and like I remember that thought, and you kind of like have these things kind of written down on your heart, written down on your mind in a way,
Yeah.
And
no, you store it down.
It's stored down.
It's stored down.
And it becomes a better, like a bigger. It ingrains in your mind better when you write instead of just reading it and then like trying to trust your memory, as faulty as it is to try to remember it. So I would say that that's a big one for me. And I would say that it's important, like if you're involved in a church, in a ministry of some sort, get into the habit of writing. Get into the habit of taking notes and doing, as I've outlined, take devotionals, things that stand out to you, write them down.
Because once again, it's just, there's something subconscious about it,
Yeah.
I was actually even just reading up about this, but there's a difference of where we store the information. It becomes different whenever we actually write it down. So the section of our brain that goes into play whenever we're actually writing something down, it actually allows you to retain that information longer. So it gives you that
memory.
It gives you that long-term memory, and it allows you to remember and recall that information even faster.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, once again, even just writing something down, boom, now you have it engraved in your head. And now you're not like, oh man, what did that sermon, what was that sermon that I was listening, like, what was it? Trying to remember it. But boom, instead of trying to remember it, like you said, our faulty information, we have it right there on paper.
Yeah. This gets into like the science of writing things down.
Yeah.
Yeah, like getting into that. I read a Forbes article. I'm pretty sure you read the same one. But neuroscience explains why you need to write down your goals if you actually want to achieve them. People who very vividly describe or picture their goals are anywhere from 1.2 to 1.4 times more likely to successfully accomplish their goals. And, like even starting out in high school, like I've heard about these studies and things like that where, they would take a look at people who make a habit of writing down their goals. Like, I want to get this job. I want to make this much money. I want to, yeah. Versus the people who just say, like, oh, dude, that'd be so cool if I started a podcast, or it's a nice idea to get this job or whatever.
Cool. Yeah, okay.
They follow up with these people and find that the people who wrote things down were more likely to achieve, those goals, or like, first off, remember them, but then achieve them.
Something completely different. And the difference in like salary, I don't even like recall the article or whatever. If I find it, I'll have to link it. I'm not sure if it's like a valid thing or not. But like, you know how many like articles or things you read on the internet and you're like, this was fake, or like another article comes out later, that study was never actually done. This, like, some people are talking about it all over in schools and stuff, but it was never actually done. Well, there was this one, I remember, like one teacher who told me, or like had this poster, like, if you write things down, your salary jumps too. Like people who write things down, their goals down, your salary jumps too.
Have a salary of like 6 to 8 times more.
No way.
Yeah.
No way.
I'm just making up things now.
Yeah. Okay. I was like, wait a second.
Way. Forbes.com. No.
But like whatever study that you look at, it
does point to it.
Every single one is in a positive light. Yeah. Well, I mean, there'll be some that will show like some negative aspects, like, oh, you're thinking too much about your past. But in general, doing that, expressive writing, like all across the whole board, everybody, it's like known to just, boost memory. There's just so many different things. And like, I even read another study where that those who journal or do expressive writing, those who journal were found to have a lower blood pressure. And so, in fact, just they're able to reduce stress. 15 to 20 minutes a day of expressive writing allowed to, in turn, reduce stress. So they're, across the entire board.
Medical benefits.
But across the entire board, you can just see that it just greatly enhances cognitive functioning, cognitive processes.
That's awesome.
So, I mean, once again, helps you prioritize in certain things, helps you kind of see the different concerns of life. Writing something down, in turn, reducing stress.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. And a higher salary. I mean, you can't argue with that.
10 Forbes 20 times.
$1 million more. No, but regardless, it just helps you clarify goals, sets a direction in your life.
I mean, overall, I don't think you needed this podcast to tell you that writing is good for you.
Yeah.
But we're telling you.
But we're
writing is
making
good for
sure.
you.
We're making sure.
So, those of you who haven't started writing yet, or those of you who have been procrastinating on the writing, get back to it.
Get back to
Get
it.
back to it. Get to it.
Yeah. No, even for myself, dude. Like, I mean, do you have any more studies that prove memory and cognitive functioning?
No, but it's funny that you pull like these words of what did you say? Creative writing or
expressive writing?
Expressive writing. What kind of writing is expressive writing? Is it talking about like poetry? I'm thinking like,
see, that's another thing.
Poetry and stuff now.
I mean, that's another thing. Like, what would consider to be like a journal entry? You know? Like, is it just writing stuff down, or can it be like, you know, even for me, song lyrics? Like, I have an entire journal just filled up of just like different song lyrics. And once again, it's not even just like, I went through this and this and this today, dear diary, you know, dear journal.
Dear diary.
It kind of just, you know, kind of not even turns the tables, but basically what I'm going through at a particular time into like a song.
Yeah.
And I'm writing these song lyrics down, and in a way,
it's beautiful.
That's a journal entry in and of itself.
100%. Would you write poetry?
I mean, could you technically just write take any song lyric and just kind of switch over to poetry?
I mean, technically, it is kind of poetry.
I mean, it follows the AAABC format and all
not
that
necessarily,
stuff. But
yeah,
regardless, song lyrics. I mean, at least for me, that was also a huge thing too.
Yeah, I agree. Same.
What about like drawing or just like artistic?
I've had that.
Yeah.
I mean,
would you consider that to be a journal entry too?
Well, actually, I would say that within the journals that I have here in front of me, I have like throughout these things, I will have. I mean, I also like to fill these things up with like scraps of paper and mementos and things like that. You know, photographs and things like that.
That's awesome, dude. I love that. I love that.
But like, I definitely do
some kind of doodling
throughout. Like, look at this.
Yeah, no, me too, man.
Like, I will do some sketching or whatever else. Like, it's nice.
Yeah, me too.
It's valid. Why not?
Well, I wonder what I was going through whenever I was drawing a rocket ship.
I wonder what you were going through when you drew that rocket ship.
Taking off, man. Oh, and I don't know why I was drawing.
You drew a guitar. Did you want to be a guitar player at some point? I know you're a piano player.
Oh my gosh. I guess a bass guitar. I don't know.
A bass. Slap
like no.
I've let. You get to the point.
Oh my gosh!
I did not draw these.
You definitely did.
I did not draw these. As you can tell, this was the drawing of Adeline, Daniel Tiger, giraffe, lion.
Daniel Tiger.
Yeah, house. Sphere me. Kitchen table. Like you get to the point where you're sitting in church and you have these little kids come up to you and stuff. I remember back in the day, you know, like your parents would tell you to share. And you're in tears because you have to rip out a page of your journal or whatever. You're like, no, it's mine.
It's my journal.
And I'm just, here you go now. Or like give them a pen. I'm like, yeah, go ahead and draw.
Interesting.
Like, oh, cool.
Yeah, because like it's one thing to like journal, and I feel like it's another thing to constrain yourself to just simply writing, you know, bullet points. I went through this, and this, and this. It doesn't have to be that. At the end of the day, journaling is
what you make it.
Expressive writing.
Expressive writing.
So what you're going through, boom. It can be through a piece of art. It could be through
what you're reading, what you're taking notes on.
What you're taking notes on.
So many different avenues that you can explore with journaling. But going back to the art thing, yeah, doodles and things like that, definitely. But like, I wouldn't say that because I kept separate things for art.
Yeah, a sketchbook for whenever you want to sketch.
Yeah. You have a different thing, you know, like you're creating art pieces and things like that. You want to be able to rip it out, like, or have it already, you know, in a format where you could like take it and frame it if you wanted to, or, you know.
Yeah, I dig that, man. No, that's awesome. I mean, once again, I have some pretty wild stuff in here too, you know, but
I have blueprints in mine on how to build a table.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, I remember you actually drew.
That doesn't make sense.
No, I think actually one of these pages you drew on my paper.
I did.
And I was like, it was like right in the middle of the paper. I was like, I can't really. Why?
Why?
This is not my expressive writing. I'm gonna tear this out. So I tore it out. But I still have it. If you want it back, it's just not me, you know.
If I had a scarf, I would be like.
We'll do that during the wintertime podcast.
Wintertime podcasts.
But yeah, love journaling, man.
Yeah. Hopefully, you can love journaling too.
100%. I mean, for me, at the end of the day, I feel like life is this like big time jigsaw puzzle, you know?
Jigsaw.
A big puzzle, you know? A thousand piece puzzle.
What if my puzzle's 1,001 pieces?
Well, then mine is 2,000 pieces. Mine is a 2,000.
That's complicated.
It's very complicated. But at the end of the day, life is this big puzzle. Like, this is the analogy that I've been looking at, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, life is like this big puzzle, you know. As you go through more and more of your life, you piece this certain thing together. Where at the end of your life, you look back at it, you're like, wow, I made this puzzle, you know. We find that whenever we try to put together this puzzle, it becomes a lot more difficult whenever we're just like trying to put it together from like a random pile, you know.
Mm-hmm.
We find it a lot easier that whenever we flip all the pieces over, you know, maybe group some certain colors that kind of look together, you know, maybe group the corner pieces.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes a lot easier to form the boundary of the puzzle and to just essentially, it's a lot easier to make this puzzle.
What's your point?
My point, I'm trying to draw the analogy here.
Use less words.
Okay, regardless.
Okay.
Regardless, I feel like journaling for me is like this grouping, you know,
a way to put the puzzle together.
Putting the puzzle, this puzzle of life together, you know, for it to be a lot more efficient, to be a lot easier for you. You know, you can flip, you know, for me, flipping over these things, journaling allows you to kind of group it together to fit the pieces a little bit easier.
Makes sense.
That's the way I look at it.
That's the way the cookie crumbles.
And that's the way the cookie crumbles.
Yeah.
Man, so many copyright phrasing today.
How many copyrights can I infringe upon today?
Oh my gosh. All the copyrights.
Just do it. Yeah. Well, I think that brings us to the end of our discussion, I would say. Unless you want to have anything else you want to add.
I mean, we still got some water left in here, bro.
Would you like some tea?
Would you like some tea? Sponsor us and
we'll send you some tea.
Oh my gosh.
Or if you would like to send us some tea, we'd love that.
That's actually
a
coincidence. We're actually out of water.
Ah, dang. Sorry. You're going to have to wait till next time.
Until next time.
Until next time. Thank you for listening to the second episode of the Vink and Leather podcast. I'm your host, Vily.
And I'm your host, Mark Schlahowski.
Signing off.
Why did we do
finger guns?
The guns, dude. I like that discussion.
That's good.
That was a good one.
That was organic.
That was
nice.
Organic. That was as organic as it gets, dude. I love that one.
Oh.
That was a perfect mix of
58 minutes.
Woohoo! At the end of the day, bro, I'd rather discussion be content heavy or not even content heavy, but juice heavy.
Yeah.
Than it to be just some long thing.